Welcome to Never a Dull Moment. I'm Greg Blythe, and today we're continuing our discussion on cutting boards. And so what we have here today is a collection of different type of wood that is out there, and we have different types of edge grain and end grain cutting boards. And the reason we're here today is we're going to talk to you about the fact that you do need to seal these boards. Okay, so in owning a wooden cutting board, there comes some maintenance. There comes a little effort on your part. Wooden cutting boards are not something that's you're just going to throw in your dishwasher. They are something that you're going to actually have to give a little TLC to. Wooden cutting boards are beautiful. They are something that you can display food that you've prepared. They're something that just sitting around on the counter just actually look good and add a little, a little spice to the kitchen area. So I want to show you a couple of things that we have. So the different types of wood that we're carrying today. So we have a teak cutting board by Teak House. This is the Pro Teak cutting board, voted America's Test Kitchen #1 cutting board for like 5 years running. And I'll put a link in there so you can see why. It's an amazing cutting board. It was a gift from my wife 2 Christmases ago. It has performed well. You can definitely see some marks in there. It's gotten some use. This is a brand new cutting board that I got. This is by my friend Jack. I playfully named his company You Don't Know Jack because Jack does this as a hobby. This is an end grain cutting board. So you can see it has a beautiful pattern. This is made of walnut and maple. Both of these cutting boards, actually all the cutting boards that I have are reversible. You can use them on either side. And again, all of these are natural products. I have on top, this is a composite wood cutting board. So this is actually a composition of different wood. It has been pressed together with an adhesive. And I do believe the manufacturer says this one maybe can go in the dishwasher, but all the reviews say that anyone who's put this in the dishwasher, it comes out with a foul smell. So I would definitely not recommend it go into the dishwasher. We also have the Hinoki wood. This is the cypress wood that is offered. This is a Japanese wood. You can already see that the board has been used prior to being sealed. And so we got some staining. I'm not going to say that the seal will prevent staining. I will say that sealing it will help to prevent staining. It is, again, a reversible cutting board. And yeah, we like it. They even have these clever little marks to say fish and chicken or whatever. But as if you've seen my other videos, as long as you're washing all of these with soap and water to kill the bacteria, you can use the wooden cutting board at any time for any food. And then the last board that we have in front of you is a bamboo board. Bamboo, like teak, is much harder. It's actually very hard. It's not necessarily recommended. It is a natural product. And because all of these have grain, they have the ability with adhesive holding them together to come apart over time. I had mentioned in another video in taking care of these that if you're going to have something that's made of wood, because it is held together with an adhesive, because people tend to wash things with hot water, we need to tone it down a little bit. Just warm water, soap, let it be really nice to it. You're going to kill the bacteria. But in doing so, bacteria can grow in these. These are all porous items. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is sealing the board to help prevent that. So full disclaimer, none of these boards were given to me by the company. This one was a gift from my wife. These were purchased. This was actually done in trade. I do have another job as a hairdresser. So I actually traded out services for this particular board. So I'm not sponsored by anyone that I'm representing here today. I met a company called 3 Key Outfitters. I met them in Atlanta, Georgia at the Blade Show, which is the largest knife show in the world. Now, my wife and I like what we call safer products. You're going to see out there many different people representing and showing you different things like food grade mineral oil. You can also see that there are definitely nut oils like walnut and almond oil. There is beeswax products, which we love. There are combinations. Some people do a combination of mineral oil with beeswax and stuff. So what 3 Key Outfitters has done is this is a 2 item. So just reading this off, this is cosmetic grade beeswax and cold pressed virgin olive oil. Okay, food grade safe, zero junk, zero chemicals. Now, I also want to point out, some of you guys love to know this. Actually, I'm a big fan. This is a veteran-owned, made in the USA, made in Marietta, Georgia product. It was nice to meet them at the show. They have a lot of the same ideas that we have when it comes to safety. So I will go ahead and say, for those of you who are going to have some questions, the number one thing that I hear and they have heard is when it comes to talking about, we are getting ready to seal this with an item made of beeswax and cold pressed olive oil. There are concerns that people have shared about olive oil being in the product. So just a little note, historically, people have used food oils, okay? Whether it be walnut, whether it be almond, whether it be avocado, whatever. If you have really good olive oil, this cold pressed, high quality olive oil, cold pressed, the way they have had it. By the way, a lot of manufacturers who have been getting away with to like making olive oil very cheap, they're adding sunflower oil and canola oil to kind of like help it. But if you get 100% olive oil, it will not go rancid for upwards of 2 years. Now, in talking to this company, they sent some articles, and I'm going to be posting articles in the description so you can feel safe about this. My wife and I are those people. We use that, like, you know, we're aluminum-free deodorant. We're organic fertilizer for our animals, our laundry detergent, so on. We're safer. And so these cutting boards are going to have the food on them that are going to go in our face. I'm never going to tell you what to do with the items you own. There are plenty of you out there that are so happy with your mineral oil, food safe mineral oil. I'm not going to argue with that. Congratulations. We are just, it's a personal thing. We're just making you aware of a product. The show today is more about how to do this, but I am just letting you know the product that we are using. Okay, so manufacturers will usually seal the board somewhat. I know that Jack actually put a particular oil on this before I got it. Okay, the Teak House, the other one, they have a nice raw. You could tell the Teak House one when it came and had added some oil applied. The Hinoki, I mean, you can feel the grain. My wife is shaking her like, you can just flat out feel it. It is just a piece of lumber.
You can hear it though.
Yeah, you can. There is texture to the wood. And definitely just by putting a couple of raw ingredients on there, yeah. We've already gotten some discoloration. The bamboo, I'd say, is natural, but bamboo has that kind of a sleek thing to it. I think all in all, there's just going to be a porous surface that bacteria can grow. So we're going to, even the composite, you know, I can't speak for it, nothing wrong with sealing it. I love these boards. We're going to be introducing in another video about cutting boards, some different surfaces, different material, some things that can go in the dishwasher, some things that don't need this type of stuff. But this board that was sent to me by Jack, it has not been sealed by us. It's not that old. Wood dries out. The moral of the story today is we want to seal it so that way we don't have to worry about bacteria growing it. And we know that wood dries out. So when it goes back to that olive oil question, if you were going to use a product like this and then put this away and not use it like for a long time, one, the wood's going to dry out. Two, you're going to say something like the olive oil could go rancid. Well, in the articles, you're going to see that doesn't mean that you can't eat on it. It does have a flavor change, and it also has a loss of nutritional value. But the board's actually going to dry out prior to that happening, where you have to reapply. And to make it more lasting and more stable, the beeswax actually makes it last a hell of a lot longer. So you're really never going to have a problem with the olive oil, simply because the wood will have absorbed it and you will have washed it off. I mean, if you're doing the soap and water thing that you're supposed to be doing, I mean, you're kind of washing it off. So we need to occasionally do this. So this is an unused item. I have, used beeswax products before. I will point out that the beeswax product that I used before had walnut oil in it. And when I was doing research for this, I came across the fact that some people have hypersensitivity to nut allergies. And so almond oil and walnut oil being something that's in there, depending on the oil itself or just the protein of the nut that was used, could be the thing that you're allergic to. But if you are an allergy sensitive person and you're all natural, just be careful to make sure you read the labels that it does not have a walnut, almond, or any of the other nut oils on there, because if something's going on, like where is it, I don't know where it could be at. Highly unlikely that at a finite level it's going to get into your body, but depending on your sensitivity, it can be fatal. So we want to, making a mess. You wear a black shirt, you get white things on it, white lint. So,
People probably want to know how much.
so enough to seal the board. So my wife is saying, like, the people want to know how much. So we need to make sure that this board is coated. We will see how long this lasts. I might actually only get to use this this whole container like twice. You know, it could go longer than I think. But with this amount, you can see that it breaks down from a solid, and then we can move it. And the wood is just drinking it up.
Mm-hmm.
Now you'll definitely get, a little bit of shine. The wood should actually, should see the grain a little bit more. I'm going to use another part of my towel here. And obviously, how far this container is going to go is going to have a lot to depend on how big is the cutting board, how thirsty is the surface. Different wood is going to have different porosity.
The texture of that one is different than the one that we used before.
No, my wife just said something, and I actually don't know what she's referring to. She said the texture of this one is different than the one that we used before. Oh, she's talking about a different material. So she just went over to the other product that, so it is a beeswax walnut oil combination. So even though they are beeswax and oil, I'm sure the ratio of wax to oil could be completely different by that particular company.
Just looking at the difference, they look very different. So I
Yeah,
just
so
want to show
one is-
people so they can see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the olive oil itself,
So that almost looks like butter when you put it on.
yeah, it looks like almost like a type of shoe polish.
Which actually you can't. You said boot polish.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let my wife focus on this board here. On this piece of paper real quick. We've got it on the utility wax side. So you guys can see the ingredients and other things this can be used for. Now again, I'm not paid by them. I've received nothing. They were nice enough to send me the product. I talked to them at Blade Show, told them what I was doing, reached out, told them that we're safe, we're like-minded people. Now, I will not immediately use this cutting board, guys. I will let this sit and seal. Now, I've only done the top of this board and that side.
Yeah, but you can really see the grain better now.
Okay, so we're going to, while we're here, I know that I'm a board flipper. So I know that I've got to get the other side and the edges. This was not an expensive product. I actually don't know the price right off the top of my head. I think it was $11.99 or less. It could have been $8.99. I will definitely have the price in the description in there. Now, How often you have to do this is going to have a lot to do with how often you use your cutting boards. I mean, if you're using it all the time and you're sanitizing it in between items, you just used chicken, you've washed it, and you're not going to another cutting board immediately and everything, it could get a lot of wear. You might have to do this more often, and you might want to buy like the jumbo pack or something if they do any of that. So we've got all the edges. I know I did the other end a moment ago. So this is not wet right now, so I don't necessarily have to stand it on its end, but I am going to let this sit for a day. I mean, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon where I am. I will not use this board today, but tomorrow it is good to go. So I'll ask my wife her opinion for this size board. I mean, you guys can see, is that about half the container? Maybe a little bit less?
Maybe a little less. But I think it depends on how thirsty that board is too. And
Yeah, now my wife just said something amazing. She thinks it depends on how thirsty that board is. But I think I said that earlier, depending on the wood, depending on the board, depending on what the manufacturer had done prior, is how much you're going to use. So we have another board here that needs to be sealed. I'm doing it on camera real quick. You can see that it doesn't take that long. I don't think I'm planning on doing this. I mean, I have a lot of cutting boards to use, so I don't think I'm going to need to do this for a while. So this board, in preparation for the show, have been washed with soap and water. It had been left on its side overnight to dry. If you do wash a cutting board with soap and water, you do need to use medium heat and the soap, clean it. You need to wet both sides of the board so that way when it's drying you don't warp one side of the board. And then you need to store the board on its side. You would need to store the board like this, upright. Yep, so we have the,
you
can see the like white,
right where it was done and not done.
So we're going to do the back side of this, making sure everything that can come off. I don't seal it.
Yeah, we stained him.
Yeah, we stained it pretty good. I'm like, is that a knot in the wood? Okay. So you can see the wood is getting darker. Now, I personally think this wood's probably really porous because if you had felt it earlier, it's just so like raw wood. So it looks like so far, I mean, we've been able to use this container on 2 of these boards. Now, these boards aren't like significantly large. So we got the edges, we got the end here with a handle. My hand has now been sealed, I think. I don't mind a little olive oil and beeswax on my hands. Very moisturizing. Okay. And so the last thing is, so I've still got a significant amount of this particular product. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to definitely go ahead and go. And you guys can fast forward through this video if you want to, but I'm going to move on to, let me make sure you guys can see. So we're going to go ahead and take care of this huge board.
His favorite.
Yeah, I mean, this board gets used. I like the size of it. You'll see in the video coming up, as well as the America's Test Kitchen. If you like a board to be large and not move, I mean, I'm giving it some force. So you see it wiggling a little bit. So I can definitely tell that I'm able to move the wax around. Like the board is absorbing it where it needs it. And then where it doesn't, the wax is able to to move around.
It does bring out the richness of the color.
Yeah, so if you enjoy seeing the grain of the wood, There you go. Now I do want to show you something real quick and what's really great about sealing your boards and what has happened. So I will be sanding this board because I made a mistake and I put a, not a cast iron pan, but a carbon steel pan on this. I had washed the carbon steel pan, it was dry. I mean, it was done being I kind of wiped it out, but I sat it there and it sat for a long time. So the carbon steel had gotten onto this board. So I'm actually got some sandpaper. I'm not going to do it on the video. I'm going to sand that, and when I do, it will take out the discoloration and it will make the board porous. So once I've done that, I will need to seal the board. So another reason to seal your board, you can help make marks like this not happen, to prevent it from kind of absorbing, and then you can use it to reseal the board to fight bacteria once you've done a mistake like I've made. Not perfect. I'm learning like you're learning. I'm glad to be learning with you. Thanks for coming along for the ride. You've seen us today, the different types of wood. They're great to have. Obviously, I have another project to do before the day is over. I appreciate you guys checking in on us. Check out the different products out there. Do this regularly. It's something that we take for granted, owning these types of things that we just let it slip our mind. Your health is important. It's important to me. It's important to you. It's important to your family. God bless. Thanks for watching the show. That was not a dull moment.